This week on ICN, the stories you should have heard, but didn't. FBI strikes deal to silence terrorist. ICE prefers international law over American law. The government finds another way to eavesdrop on your communications. Government spends hundreds of millions to maintain empty buildings. Those stories and more next on Informed Citizen News. Hello and welcome to ICN, Informed Citizen News, March 28, 2010. The Asian Times reported that the FBI reached a plea bargain with David Coleman Headley, who played a key role in the planning of the terror strike in Mumbai, India, November 2008, where 166 people were killed. This plea deal has outraged India, as it allows the U.S. government to hold back all information and details that link Headley with American and Pakistani intelligence agencies. The FBI will restrict access to Headley so that Indian agencies cannot interrogate him. The plea bargain provides some details of the planning and carrying out of the largest terrorist attack in India's history, but doesn't name co-conspirators. In exchange for the plea, Headley will not face the death penalty and will remain in the custody of the United States. The FBI, in striking a deal with Headley, appears to be hiding something from India and the public at large. In a follow-up to a story covered a few weeks ago by ICN, the United States Agency for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, filed an appeal to overturn a judge's decision to grant asylum to a German homeschooling family. The family fled Germany and filed for political asylum in the U.S. based on the threat of persecution by the German government over their desire to home educate their children. The German government, in order to force compliance with compulsory public education, was looking to impose increasing and potentially crushing fines, the loss of custody of the children, and possible criminal prosecution over homeschooling. On January 26th of this year, Judge Berman granted the German family asylum after determining that the German government's treatment of homeschoolers was repellent to everything we believe as Americans, and that Germany was denying the family basic human rights. In their appeal, ICE pointed to a separate but similar case that was denied in the European Court of Human Rights as evidence that the public education laws of Germany do not violate basic human rights. ICE criticized Judge Berman for disregarding the decision of the European Court. In other words, it appears that ICE is arguing that U.S. judges should follow international law rather than U.S. law. ICE also claimed in their appeal that United States law has recognized the broad power of the state to compel school attendance, regulate curriculum, as well as, quote, the authority to prohibit or regulate homeschooling. ICN will continue to cover this story as it develops due to this case raising the questions of personal liberty, U.S. law versus international law, and government persecution. It seems like we've been sharing a story from Wired magazine each week. This time, in another Wired article, they expose government's potential to intercept encrypted internet communications without you knowing it. It is referred to as a man-in-the-middle attack, where the encrypted communication is intercepted, for instance, between your computer and your bank server. At a recent wiretapping convention, it was discovered that a small company was marketing internet spying boxes to the feds. The boxes were designed to intercept those communications without breaking the encryption by using forged security certificates, instead of the real ones that websites use to verify secure connections. To use this technology, the government would need to acquire a forged certificate from any one of more than 100 trusted certificate authorities. Even encryption can't keep the prying eyes of government out of your business. We are now learning more about what deals were made behind the scenes during last Sunday's healthcare vote. One of the most significant backroom deals resulted in Obama apparently pledging to push an overwhelmingly unpopular amnesty plan for millions of illegal aliens in order to get his healthcare bill. The president's promise to push amnesty in 2010 came just hours after members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus promised their support for the healthcare reform bill. It also coincided with the release of an outline for amnesty legislation authored by Senators Charles Schumer and Lindsey Graham. So get ready, America. The question of amnesty for illegal aliens might be next on Obama's agenda. A 2007 Associated Press article reported that when the FDA approved implanting microchips in humans, the manufacturer said it would save lives by letting doctors scan the tiny transponders to access patients' medical records almost instantly. The AP article continued, the FDA found reasonable assurance the device was safe, and a sub-agency even called it one of 2005's top innovative technologies. But neither the company nor the regulators publicly mentioned this. A series of veterinary and toxicology studies dating to the mid-1990s stated that chip implants had induced malignant tumors in some lab mice and rats. Privacy expert, syndicated radio host, and best-selling author Dr. Catherine Albrecht explains it is important that the public be made aware of the potential hazards of microchipping because some governments are seeking to make pet chipping mandatory. Keith Johnson, a retired toxicology pathologist, led a 1996 study at the Dow Chemical Company. He told the AP the transponders were the cause of the tumors. Dr. Albrecht said that there are no controlled studies on the link between microchips and cancer in pets. She says we suspect this is happening quite frequently, and it's simply not being reported. She concludes if a pet is not currently microchipped, it may be best to keep them that way. Here's a story that may drive you over the edge. ABC News reported that there are numerous empty buildings across the United States owned by the federal government. One example was a $100 million building the size of a city block sitting empty just across from the Capitol building. The report also stated that the Veterans Administration was spending $170 million a year just to maintain their empty buildings. Federally owned buildings sitting empty and costing taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars every year? Not something you want to hear when getting ready to file your tax return. The Food and Drug Administration on Monday warned doctors and parents against using the Rotarix rotavirus vaccine until further testing confirms it is safe. The vaccine contains a pig virus called porcine circovirus 1, or PCV1. Over 1 million children in the United States and 30 million worldwide may have been exposed to the tainted vaccine. The WWF, formerly the World Wildlife Fund, announced that it was playing a leading role in a scheme to preserve an area of the Amazon rainforest twice the size of Switzerland. A little closer look reveals the hidden agenda, of which is to allow the WWF and its partners to share the selling of carbon credits worth $60 billion to enable firms in the industrial world to carry on emitting CO2 just as before. The UK Telegraph provided analysis of the WWF concept and in the end concluded that this revelation will damage the reputation of the World Wildlife Fund. State budget gaps are getting too big for even the most creative government officials. New Hampshire was recently ordered by its state Supreme Court to put back $110 million that it took from a medical malpractice insurance pool to balance its budget. Colorado tried, so far unsuccessfully, to grab a $500 million surplus from Pinnacle Assurance, a state workers' compensation insurer that was privatized in 2002. Connecticut has tried to issue its own accounting rules. Hawaii has inaugurated a 4-day school week. California accelerated its corporate income tax this year, making companies pay 70% of their 2010 taxes by June 15th. And many states have balanced their budgets with federal health care dollars that Congress has not yet appropriated. There is also sleight-of-hand accounting with so-called off-balance sheet liabilities. It makes it difficult for even the experts to tell when this debt time bomb goes off. Finally, the Commerce Department reported that personal incomes across the country fell in 2009. Take a look at this map. The green indicates the areas where income rose in 2009. Just so happens to be in and around the Washington, D.C. area. Thanks for joining us this week. Please share ICN with your friends and family. From all of us at Informed Citizen News, have a good week.